The Chaucer Cluster Innovation Project is a collaboration between 4 schools who are all part of the Chaucer family of schools in the north of Sheffield. The schools involved are Southey Green Learning Community, Hillsborough Primary, Parson Cross Church of England Primary and Maynell Primary. The head teachers met and discussed how to respond to the TDA invitation to run a collaborative project that extended learning beyond the classroom. Maths performance had been identified as a local issue, and so the project was focused on underachieving Y5 children who are currently at level 3C or a low level 3B and who may benefit from a boost to enable faster progress to level 3A. The project was focused around an inquiry question, which was, how can we construct mathematical experiences that encourage children to think and act mathematically? The head teachers wanted the staff from each school to be allowed to take risks and develop a creative response, so the responsibility for designing and delivering the project was given to a team of 5 staff plus the extended services coordinator across the 4 schools. The staff held planning meetings and decided on a programme which involved several stages, all focused around using key mathematical concepts which are part of the Y5 curriculum. 10 children from each of the 4 schools were identified, and they initially met together and were offered the opportunity to join one of 4 days which would have a mathematical theme to it. The 4 days they were offered included a day of athletics at the English Institute of Sport, which would do a whole set of work around mathematical concepts involving times, distance and creating performance profiles for the children and for other key athletes. A day at Magna, which involved exploring mathematical concepts in relation to engineering. A day of digital photography, which involved a visit to the centre of Sheffield to capture shapes and key concepts such as symmetry, parallel and perpendicular lines. The 4th day, called Come Dine With Me, involved planning and cooking a meal, possibly for a celebrity guest, and partway through the day a letter was received as though from Gordon Ramsay saying that he was going to be cooking a birthday meal for Cheryl Cole, and they had chosen the children's menu, but could the children help with scaling up the quantities and with some questions about costs. After attending the days of their choice, the 40 children then spent the next day together reviewing their learning and in rotation doing 4 workshops which covered aspects of planning a trip to Alton Towers. 1 workshop looked at budgeting, 1 looked at transport, times, distances and costs, 1 at the children's heights and the height limits of different rides, and 1 at planning a route around the theme park, the timings involved and estimated queuing times. The children then went enthusiastically on a very enjoyable visit to Alton Towers during the summer term, and a further celebration event with parents was planned. The key outcomes that the project was looking for included improved attainment in maths, increased motivation and enthusiasm for maths by the children, increased use of mathematical language, increased understanding of the usefulness and purpose of maths, and also opportunities for further collaboration and action research across the family of schools. The project used the TDA's impact evaluation tool to capture the evaluation evidence. Rob Jackson, a teacher from Hillsborough Primary, picks up the story.
Well, from my point of view, my group took part in a photography maths unit where we went out into the real world, into Sheffield city centre, and we looked at shape and space. We looked at all the areas related to that part of the maths curriculum in Year 5. So within 2 hours of working together, the children were confident in using the words parallel, perpendicular, right angles, different types of angles, the names of 3D shapes, the properties of 2D and 3D shapes, and it just really showed accelerated learning, something that would take maybe a week, 2 weeks in a classroom. The children were confident within 2 hours of working with Gavin the photographer in a real life situation. Initially it was quite difficult because the four of us not working together before and not knowing each other, we didn't really know how to take each other now. The four of us worked until we got to know each other. So initially, the initial meeting was quite slow at getting going, but once we got to know each other, once we realised how we worked, the ideas started bouncing off of each other, and the project started to flow really. It was really good working together as a four. We managed to bounce ideas off each other, come up with new concepts that we wouldn't have thought about if we'd have been working individually. If we'd have been working just as one school, we wouldn't have come up with the same project that we came up with, which was really pleasing in the end. The difficulties we had were with communication, working across 4 schools that are quite spread out across a large cluster was quite difficult. So email was a godsend in that matter. So we kept in touch by email. It would have been much better if we could have got together on a much more regular basis, just to iron out any issues with the project and discuss the finer details, because we were all quite happy with the project. The 10 children we chose initially were those children that were working below age expected levels for Year 5 children, and to be honest, didn't like maths, had no enthusiasm for maths, and when they were told they were on a maths project were not necessarily that pleased, I've got to say. Once the project was, once they were told about the project and what it involved, the enthusiasm started to go straight away, because they realised it wasn't just going to be maths, it was maths in their real life situation. And I could see as the project went on, the children were getting more and more enthusiastic, and each day they'd be asking, when is the next part of the maths in the real world project, when are we going to do more photography, when are we going to do the planning for our trip to Alton Towers that we got to at the end. And just for the day at Southey Green we did the planning for Alton Towers, the children were so enthusiastic. They did a full day's worth of maths, 4 different hour sessions, which was really hard work, and there was no complaints. They got on with it and they enjoyed it. I think they really enjoyed it, and I think the group of them, not just my 10 children at Hillsborough or our 10 children, the whole 40 of them can now see the point to maths in the real world and where it fits into their future life. For me as a teacher, this project has opened my eyes a little with regards to how I teach maths to my children in a class on a daily basis. We do a lot of teaching that is off topic, it's given to the children. What I would like to do in future is open my maths up and take it into the real world, whether that be in the classroom or taking them off site, albeit just maybe in the local area, because I think it's so powerful to get the children involved in something that they can see a point to, and that's what the real success of this project has been. There is a point to maths, and it's not just something they have to learn. So that really has made a difference to will make a difference to my teaching.
It's been part of an evolving process really, the way we work together, and we've been trying to do it increasingly closely. We've done quite a lot of family schools that have working on things that assist in the management of schools, facilities management and things like that, and subsequently started doing some work with moderation across the schools, so we kind of extended it into another area there, and this project really was, if you like, a bit of a third stage, in that we're actually encouraging the teachers to work really closely together to actually create and plan something rather than reflecting on something that had already been done. So that was the kind of context that we were operating in. I think as heads we felt very much the benefits of what we're aiming to achieve is that it's developing a kind of professional dialogue for teachers that's not just beyond the classroom door but beyond the school gates as well, and we feel like that's encouraging teachers to really reflect on their own practice. And then there's the obvious benefits of talking things through and learning from each other. I mean, we're operating in a context now, I think, where the support from each other as different schools is going to become increasingly important, and I think this plays a kind of quite a key part in that process. The professional development side of things can't be ignored either, because obviously staff are having to think in different sets of circumstances, I suppose, and take leadership responsibilities with staff from other schools and with children from other schools. So there's that sense of growing that takes place with the teachers themselves. And so we think there's quite a lot of benefits in terms of the whole principles of what we're doing. I think this particular project, that the benefits from a child's point of view have been largely down to attitudinal effects. We've certainly noticed the fact that they seem to develop a real sense of purpose in what they were doing and what they were aiming to achieve. They could see that maths has a place in the real world, and that was very much what we were hoping to achieve. They've obviously operated on a similar basis before in other sets of circumstances in school, but this had some real status because they were working with children from other schools, with staff from other schools, and I think all of that contributed to making it a very memorable process. And I'm a big believer in the fact that quite often the context that children operate in can make a significant difference to how much they take things in, the extent to which it goes into the long-term memory as well. So I think there's quite a lot of benefits, and certainly the children thoroughly enjoyed it, and my understanding from our teacher was that he got an awful lot out of the project. We need to develop further things along these kind of lines, I think, and we've learned from some of the things that we did this time around. We need to probably afford a bit more time for the planning process because the logistics were sometimes a little tricky. But I think we got there in the end, and it's certainly been extremely beneficial on all those different levels, and next time around perhaps it can be even more so as well.